It all started in 1937 when three of us, three young lads, decided to join the Territorial Army. There was Jim Jackson, Willie Osborne and me, Dennis Pocock. And we went to the drill hall at Guiseley and we found out we was now in the Royal Army Service Corps. All the equipment and uniforms were leftovers from the First World War. Flat caps, a lot of buttons to polish, equipment to blanco, and really all the thing. We had putties that you had to wind round your legs 9.5 times. They said this was to stop the rats running up your leg if we got into the trenches at any time. We also had a 3-ton lorry. It was an open cab, no windscreen, outside toilet, and it was a real First World War vehicle. In the first year we learned how to drink, smoke, swear and pillage, and also drive this big vehicle so that we're ready for anything. In 1938 they had a bit of a crisis in Germany where a Mr. Schicklgruber, he used to be called Adolf Hitler, was causing a bit of bother. And Neville Chamberlain, who was the Prime Minister, went over to sort things out. And he came back waving this bit of paper saying, "Peace in our time." In the meantime, they had called up the Territorial Army, and we had to report to the drill hall with all our kit ready for anything. When we got there to the drill hall, there was 3 officers, 4 sergeants, 2 corporals, and 4 men. There was me, Jim Jackson, Dougie Rowe and Willie Osborne, and they didn't know how to do wars at this time, so they had a meeting, and the first thing was read out was secure the area. So they sent Dougie Rowe to go lock the door, and then it said post sentries. So the officer said, "You're the sentry, get your gun and go outside and be a sentry." I said, "Well, by myself." I said, "It's getting dark now, you know." He said, "Yeah." He said, I said, "Well, how long for?" He says, 2 hours. I said, "That's a long time." I said, "Can I take a chair?" He said, "No." He says, I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" He said, "Well," he said, "if anybody comes up, say, how two goes there, friend or foe." If they say friend, say past friend and be recognised. I said, "What if they say foe?" He said, "Well, shoot them." I said, "We haven't any bullets." He said, "Well, try and get you some." Well, when I eventually did get outside, there was nobody about, but inside about 10 minutes must have been a dozen women and children stood at the other side, watching me, wondering what I was going to do. When I looked up the road, they looked up the road. When I looked down the road, they looked down the road. I think they expected the German army to come marching down at any minute. But to be quite honest, I did as well. Well, I sloped my arms a bit, you know, like what they do, and I set up, and the women across the road gave us a bit of a clap, and they hadn't given 2 or 3 steps forward, and 2 fellas came across and walked straight into the drill hall. The officer came out and gave me a bit of a telling off, and my mate's mother, who was across the road, shouted across, "Leave the poor little bugger alone, he couldn't help. We were up there when they went in." Fizzled out, did that bit, and I went on guard a bit on the doorway again, and at 10:15 my mate came to relieve me, and he said, "I was just going to the fish shop. There is a fish shop just across the road," he says, "and they'll be closed if I wait." He says, "So look after me rifle while I come back, and I'll not be long." And then this officer came out and he says, "Whose rifle is that?" I said, "It's Willie Osborne's. He's just gone for some chips. He'll not be long." Anyway, wait, I said there must be a lot in. Anyway, come walking back, did Bill like, and this officer says, "What do you think you're doing?" He says, "I mean, it was obvious you were eating his chips." He says, "This won't do." He says, "You'll have to come to my office in the morning at 9 o'clock. So I said, "What for?" He said, "Oh, you're both on a charge." I said, "What for?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "But I'll think of something." Anyway, next morning we went on parade, and they stood us down and said, "You can all go home, it's finished." They gave us a tram fare home. And as we were walking home, I said to Jim, I say it wasn't bad, what do you? I said, "You can't wonder that Mr. Hitler didn't want to walk, can he, when you see what's been going on, can you?" And he said, "No." Nothing else happened then until September the 1st, 1939, when we got called up for the real war, and we stayed a bit. First of all, we set up camp at Barlow. This was just near Selby, and from here I did quite a few things. I was sent to be an ambulance driver in Hull for quite a while, at Hedden, about a month, and at North Cave. When I came back, we had to report to the company office, where we was told we was being transferred or posted, and there was 4 of us, and they said we were going to join the BEF. We didn't know what this meant, but they said we were going to join this BEF. There were 4 men short and they sent for us. We weren't going to drive or anything. We were just going to be in the crowd scenes, and we were told to pack all our kit up and get ready to move. They gave us a travel warrant to go to Southampton, and they took us down and put us on the train and said, don't forget to change at King's Cross. They gave us the unexpired portions of our day's ration, and we set off. Eventually we landed at Southampton, and it was really a lot of soldiers about there, and everything was more or less chaos. And in a few days they put us on a ship and we landed at Cherbourg, that's in France. And eventually we landed up at Arras in a big barn we was for our billy, and we were supposed to be looking after this petrol dump. And it actually was petrol. They were in 4-gallon cans, tins, and it was stacked down 2 sides of a road, and we were supposed to guard it. And actually we were there when the Germans broke through. The sergeant drove up in a 1500 weight truck, and he says, you've got to get out of here. And I don't know we're supposed to destroy this petrol dump, but there were so many people coming down this road. They were streaming down and they couldn't do anything. And, well, I said to the sergeant, it seems a shame really. I said, the Germans were probably glad of this petrol, you know. All these people going down this road, they actually told us after it was the 5th column. And when I come to think about it, there was 4 nuns with moustaches, and that did make me wonder. When we got back to our company, this was a place called Low. Now, I don't know where this is. Actually, we hadn't been there 10 minutes. When they sent us off again, they put it in the back of a 3-ton truck, and they sent us to see if there was a way through somewhere and whether a bridge had been blown up. Eventually, we got to, they took it in a 3-ton truck, as I say, and dropped us off, and we set off across country. And we stopped at the edge of a road, and this, and you might not believe this, there was a German motorbike and sidecar coming down the road, and I says to my mate, I said, it's right what they say, they have got square heads, no ears, haven't they? He says, that's their helmets. I said, do you think we ought to shoot at them? He said, you must be bloody joking. Anyway, we got back to our own company and they're gone, and we didn't know what to do, so we had quite a lot of things. We had a boys' anti-tank rifle, a Bren gun, a bit of ammunition, all our kit. Not all our kit, because we hadn't any. And so we thought we'd better set off. So we put all these things in a wheelbarrow, and we set off, and we got ambushed by our own side. And there was a Gloucester. We interrogated a bit, and they gave us a right nice meal, I'll admit that. And then a whistle blew, and we had to set off with this anti-tank rifle. And we never fired this. Well, we didn't know how it worked even, so they put us back a lot of Swedes in a road and left us there all night. And my mate said he'd heard when you fired this gun, it gave such a kick, it put your shoulder out. I said, and he says, I'm not firing it. I said, well, I am. Anyway, next morning, they gave us a really nice breakfast. It was tin bacon and a big tin of coffee, it was tea. And then the sergeant said he didn't like what he'd been doing, and we said we didn't like what we'd been doing. So we set off again then. They said we could go, and we left these guns. They might have been there now, for all I know. And we set off again then. And we met a farmer, and he said, La guerre finie, Anglais soldat parti. And they said they were all heading. Well, we didn't have a Dunkirk. There were pillars of smoke, oily black smoke, billowing up, and it said, make your way across country, keep off the road. So we set off. By this time, me and my mate were just on our own. We'd left the guns, they might be still there for all I know. And as we were making our way across country, there were these German aeroplanes going, there were Stuka dive bombers, and they kept dropping bombs up and down. And I remember this is a little bit of a funny in between. We were going across this field, and I said to my mate, I said, have you seen any toilets? He said, no, I don't think I have. He said, go in that wood there. I said, I could do it. So I went in, and one side they were all bracken and nettles and things, and I got my trousers down my ankles, and all of a sudden a bomb dropped about 10 miles away, and my mate said, down. I didn't want to go forwards or backwards, and I sneezed and my nose started bleeding, and by the time I sorted myself out, I came out, my mate said, "Have you been shot?" I said, "No, I don't think so." The next part seemed more like a dream than anything else. We came up on this road, which was clear all the way through, in the fields all round about. All the vehicles and equipment had been driven round and more or less dumped. I think there was no soldiers about, there was nobody. We looked in the back and there were all equipment, and in one wagon there was a pile of rifles, and all the bolts had been taken out and I think must have been thrown away. But there was nobody to ask what to do, where to go, so we kept on and we came up over these sand dunes and overlooking the beach, and on this beach there were soldiers, groups of soldiers, all sat waiting. We didn't know what for. We didn't know what it was all about, really. So we set off and we walked the length of the beach till we came to the docks. Why we did this, I don't know. But the destroyer at the end of a pier, and we just walked on this pier at the back of 4 French sailors, straight up onto the ship, down a deck, and sat down. And there were quite a lot of, it was packed with soldiers, and a lot of high-ranking officers in it as well. We set off, the guns were firing on the ship, pom-pom guns, and we set off out to the harbour, and we was going from side to side and zigging and zagging. A lone aeroplane came over, dropped a couple of bombs near us, the ship lurched, all the lights went out, and for 30 seconds it was panic. There was no rank, officers and privates were all the same. Everybody stood up, and I think it was everybody in the same boat. Suddenly the lights came on and everybody sat down, and it was as though nothing had happened. And then we heard a cheer from above decks, and they said they'd shot this Stuka dive bomber down. We carried on then until we docked. I think it was at Dover. When we got off, we were just with nothing, only what we stood, and our rifles. And I says to my mate, I says, this rifle, I says, they've been a waste of time, they've been more bothered than what they were. I said, why soldiers have to carry rifles? I'll never know. We were put on a train and we were taken somewhere, I think it was Grantham, into a very big field and a lot of tents, and here we were sorted. And then our proper soldiering started for the next 3 or 4 years. And we were real proper soldiers until a few weeks before D-Day. At this time I was transferred to a tank transporter company at High Barnet. This was in London. Not as a tank transporter driver at first. I was in the workshop part, driving a 10-ton Ford, and it was a stores wagon. And it was on this that I eventually went to France again. We went across on a landing craft and I drove it up and up the beaches. And it was then when I started enjoying myself again. What a lie. Soon after this I was transferred onto a tank transporter. My driver was a London bus driver, or had been, called Ben Gates. He came from Cricklewood, and we had quite a lot of good times on this tank transport. We used to sleep on it and live on it and cook on it, and we did quite a lot of exciting things on it, including carrying tanks. When the war had been about finished, we ended up in Brussels, and our headquarters company was in the Sunlight Soap Factory at Foray, just on the outskirts of Brussels. We did quite a few things. One thing we did, we were sent up into Germany to bring out a V2 rocket. We went up and brought this V2 rocket back into Brussels, and then we took it to Antwerp, where it was on exhibition there in the Market Square for quite a while. And then we took it all the way back up to Cuxhaven in Germany to the rocket firing ranges. It was quite an impressive sight, this, and it was a bit out of the ordinary. Next we came back to, we were stationed at Brussels a bit at this time, and then we ended up in Hamburg, and from there we was Demobed, and I was on Z Reserve, they called it, and I thought, well, that's my army finished, but it hadn't. In 1952 they sent for me again, and I had to, I got a travel warrant, and I had to go to Pennycuick, just outside Edinburgh, to an ambulance company, and for 2 weeks we did a bit of training and messing about, and they even give us all our kit again and put it in a kit bag and put it into storage when we finished. And I've been expecting getting called up again, but they've never been back, and I don't know why.